Mr. Bernstein, first things first, you spoke about the Mueller report in your speech here today. It seems that it's a crucial task for the American colleagues and also the ones of us covering American affairs in Denmark to get this coverage right. You've been covering politics for decades now. What would be your advice in terms of making sure in a partisan media landscape to get the truth out to as many Americans as possible and readers in general?
I think what I talked about here today, do the hard work of good reporting. Talk to a lot of people, find sources, knock on doors. There are people now in the Mueller investigation who might be available to speak with, who weren't accessible previously. We've got a number of congressional committees involved where there are possible avenues of inquiry for a reporter. I think what I keep stressing is that reporting is not rocket science. It requires, its objective is the best obtainable version of the truth, and it requires an enormous amount of persistence, common sense, rejection of pushback, abandonment of ideological baggage, and respect for the people you're covering as well. And look, I think we just got to go on doing the reporting we're doing about Mueller, about this president.
How hard is it now when the president insists on making the reporters a part of the story instead of reporters usually just covering the story? How big a problem is that in terms of covering the upcoming election the way you see it?
In terms of the election, I don't think it should be a problem at all. I think there's a general problem that the President of the United States has tried to make the conduct of the press the issue of his presidency rather than his own conduct. I think the only way we address that is, yes, we need to explain sometimes our methodology and to show people that we're not fake news. But the best way to show it is by the stories we do. And we've done great stories for 2 years in this presidency, and I'm confident we'll continue to do. He hates the press because it's done such a good job in exposing who he really is.
When I speak to colleagues at New York Times and also at your old newspaper, Washington Post, they're concerned about the security of the reporters going to cover Trump rallies. Is that a concern that you share?
Yeah, but that's obvious. But I don't think it's the big question. I think look, he's created an atmosphere that goes beyond just reporters who are in some way subjected to possible threats. I don't want to exaggerate it either and make it the big focus of what's going on, because it's not. What's going on is an attempt to discredit the press and its reporting. And the best way to acquit ourselves is to do what we're supposed to do, which is to keep doing the reporting.
Final question, Mr. Bernstein. You covered politics, as you also talked about in the speech back in the early 70s with the production of these two books, which are concerned journalistic classics nowadays. Could reporting like the things that you did with Bob Woodward back then, could that be possible today, or is it too tame now with the...
As I said, the reporting on the Trump presidency has been great by a dozen news organizations. What the two books represent, All the President's Men, is an account of actually the daily reporting that we did.
Right.
People are doing that. But one of the things, not enough in the sense of there's too much 24-hour-a-day pressure. We had the luxury of time, particularly on the final days. But also at the paper. We needed 2 weeks to develop a story. We had it. And that precious commodity does not exist nearly as much as it ought to.